You are tuned in to a Fireside chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Tonight's guests are Tina Fiorda and Tilde Cameron. Tina and Tilde co-authored their new book, A Book of Insight. While experimenting with a Ouija board, they were joined by three entities who were not of this world. They began to receive wisdom and knowledge from a realm of existence that was way beyond anything ever experienced. A Book of Insight takes you through a fascinating journey of the soul and mankind's evolution from the time man first came to inhabit the earth to present day. So let's welcome both of them now. I believe we have Tina and Tilde with us. Are you both there?
We're both. Thanks so much for having us.
Good. Well, can one of you share how you started on this journey? Did it actually begin before you were using the Ouija board, or, was this something that just completely came out of the blue?
This is Tina. Both had experiences, children, myself. I remember as a child floating down the stairs, standing upright, and thinking I was alone. In retrospect, I realized that I was having an out-of-body experience. Also, as a child, I remember, as children mostly do when they can't sleep at night, they crawl into their parents' bed, and I would do that at times, and would summon my friends to come out of the shadows of the wall and entertain me until I fell asleep. And it was a normal thing for me, and I thought nothing of it. But, now looking back, that's really not something that most adults do. And these are not characters that existed within my visual mind. They were characters that existed outside of my visual mind. I could actually...
Okay, so we were just talking to Tina about, how she first started to experience some of the invisible friends that many of us have, myself included, which was kind of a prelude to what was happening later with her writings. Did you want to continue on that line?
Yeah, well, this is Tilde now. Tina and I have both had some interesting experiences as children, and these experiences led us to begin experimenting with the Ouija board. And we basically experimented with the Ouija board many years. We started in our teen years, and over the years we became more and more proficient with it and found that we were able to communicate with entities from the other side. And over time, we had three particular entities that introduced themselves to us as our spirit guides. And they introduced themselves to us as Melanie, M, and Demna. So over the years, we established a relationship with them, and we found that we could contact them anytime at will using the Ouija board. And eventually, it was September of 2004, we were having one of our, semi-regular Ouija sessions, and our guides came through and began delivering information to us on meditation. And they delivered about a page of material, and at the end of this session, they proceeded to tell us that this was going to be the beginning of chapter 1 of our book.
Oh.
And we were both pretty amazed and taken aback by that, but we really didn't take it very seriously at that time. And it wasn't until 3 years later that we decided to follow up on it and see if they were actually serious about it. And we followed up, we sat down, had a session, and they just picked up right where they left off 3 years ago. The material they delivered was seamless. You couldn't tell that that 3 years had lapsed.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is, and the reason you couldn't tell that 3 years had lapsed was because on the spiritual side, time does not exist. Everything exists in the everlasting now. So we only experience the passage of time at this end of our three-dimensional reality.
That's right. Interesting. Now, did you need to move the what do they call that placard? The little triangular piece. Did they have to spell out each letter?
The planchette or the pointer.
Yes.
Yeah, for us it actually spelled out each letter. But because we've been doing this for so many years, we've developed a system where it's almost part channeling. You can anticipate some of the material that's coming through. So they're spelling the majority of the material out, but we can anticipate some of the words that are about to come through.
And what happens is I wear a microphone, and Tilde and I put our hands on the planchette, and it just starts going. Wow. And what we do is we visualize ourselves surrounded by white light, and I say a prayer of protection before every session. And it's a really interesting experience because as I'm speaking the words, I have a sensation of this great block of information that's just hovering above me and behind me. And the sensation is that if we existed on the spiritual world, our spirit guides could just take that one block of information and just transfer the entire block at once to us, and we would assimilate it right away. But because they have to pass it to the three-dimensional world, it feels like it's being funneled through a funnel.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine us being at the small end of the funnel, we're receiving the information in a small, steady stream instead of receiving it all in one block.
Interesting, yes. Some people talk about getting complete downloads from various entities. Often I've had guests who have communicated with ETs, and they will refer to that as a block of information just gets downloaded. But I can see where you could probably develop a kind of shorthand for your writings. You probably anticipate certain, once you get going rapidly enough, I imagine it kind of flows.
Oh, yes. It flows. And it's interesting because at the end of each session, usually our sessions last about 2 hours, and we get about 1.5 to 2 pages in 2 hours. And at the end, we can sort of remember the gist of the information, but we can't remember the information that's come through. It's not until Tilde has typed up the manuscript after she's listened to the recording that we read it, and then we are aware of the exact information that's been channeled to us. But it's not until we read it that we actually know exactly what's come through.
Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is that Tina and I actually had to sit down and read the entirety of this book a number of times to find out what was in the book, because we had little glimpses of and ideas of what was in there, but really we didn't know until we read the book for ourselves.
Interesting, and because there are a lot of very interesting spiritual concepts, and maybe you could share some of the ways that they define things. For instance, we often talk about the higher self and guides. Now, how do they define these aspects of ourselves?
Well, they tell us that in the beginning the Source wanted to know all of what it could become. And in wanting to know all of what it could become, it sent out Source souls. And these Source souls are basically what we are. It sent out, and what we have group souls, like an oversoul, and within that oversoul are the Source souls, which is what you are, Lance, what I am, what Tilde is. We're all Source souls. And we are all experiencing reality on behalf of the Source so that the Source can experience self-actualization. And it's really interesting concepts because I mean, we just go through our day-to-day reality, locked inside our bodies, dealing with what we have to deal with in life, and we don't think beyond ourselves into source souls and the source and so on.
Quite true. Go ahead.
I was just going to add to that they gave us an interesting definition of the source as well, whereas most of us through religion tend to have sort of a visual of God or the source as being this old man with a white beard that sits up on the clouds and looks down on us in judgment. And what our guides tell us is that the source is infinite conscious awareness. It describes it in a sense as an energy field, and this energy field permeates each and every one of us. If you were to break down all matter down to its smallest form, you would be left with the conscious energy of the divine source, is how they describe it. And Stephen Hawking refers to this energy field as the mind of God. And our guides tell us that we all exist within the mind of God, that this is all one great big illusion, almost existing in God's imagination, and we're all actors that play out little scenes in this illusion of reality.
Well, that certainly makes a lot of sense, and of course Shakespeare said that too. What are some of the more interesting bits of information that the three entities have shared with you about our present existence and our evolution and the path that we're on now?
Well, they tell us that in mankind's evolution, we are meant to open our third eye. We are meant to evolve to that level, and our ultimate goal is ascension. Right. That is basically our ultimate goal, and we've read, about white light beings that don't have physical bodies, and basically we are meant to evolve to ascension, and we are also meant. And what they also say is that 2012 is a part of this, the galactic alignment, that it's all interrelated. Nothing is random. And that mankind, we're going to evolve, we're going to open our third eye, and this is part of our natural evolution. We did not come this far just to be extinguished.
Yeah, and they also told us, although they didn't really elaborate, unfortunately, on this in the book, but they did mention a little bit about our DNA, and they told us that our DNA is actually programmed to go through this evolution. So what so many people refer to as junk DNA, I believe it's something like 97% of our DNA is considered to be junk DNA. Well, our DNA is actually, what this junk DNA is, it's actually programmed DNA, and our evolution is programmed into this DNA. And so it'll be interesting to see how, what kind of an effect 2012 has on that. I think we're going to start seeing some changes there.
And we're already seeing changes. I mean, people are awakening. There's a mass awakening that's happening on a global scale. And this is programmed within us. And what our guides also tell us about our DNA is that as we evolve, our DNA will evolve. It's like the blueprint of a house. When you change a house or you add a room to it, the blueprint of the house changes. And our DNA is our blueprint.
Now, I have heard from various different sources, such as Sitchin and others, who interpreted these Sumerian tablets, that a group called the Anunnaki had originally stripped us of all but tooth strands in order to keep us within a certain frequency range. Do they say anything about that, or, of us actually becoming connected to whatever it was that might have been altered with?
They do tell us that we have been manipulated by others not from this world, although they do not talk specifically about the Anunnaki. But they do talk about mankind's evolution and how our evolution has been assisted. But again,
You are tuned in to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. Join us now on another exciting metaphysical journey. Relax, tune in, drop out, and take a seat by the fire as we explore new realms and possibilities. This is Magenta Pixie. You can find me at magentapixie.weebly.com. But
To present day. So let's welcome both of them now. I believe we have Tina and Tilde with us. Are you both there?
We're both. Thanks so much for this.
Good. Well, can one of you share how you started on this journey? Did it actually begin before you were using the Ouija board of insight? While experimenting with a Ouija board, they were joined by three entities who were not of this world. They began to receive wisdom and knowledge from a realm of existence that was way beyond anything ever experienced. A book of insight takes you through a fascinating journey of the soul and mankind's evolution from the time man first came to inhabit the earth, or was this something that just completely came out of the blue?
this is Tina. Both had experiences, children, myself. I remember as a child floating down the stairs, standing upright, and thinking I was awake. In retrospect, I realized that I was having an out-of-body experience.
now, here is Zany Mystic and guest. Enjoy the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to a Fireside Chat with Zany Mystic. I'm your host, Lance White. Tonight's guests are Tina Fiorda and Tilde Cameron. Tina and Tilde co-authored their new book, A Book